Are you ready to branch out, to take a leap of faith, to love yourself and others fully? Then let go of whatever no longer serves you to take action now on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Erica will energize and excite you to power up your passionate dream that sets your soul on fire. With Erica's E3 approach, equipping, empowering, and enlightening yourself so you can be yourself for yourself. Get ready and get rooted to live a life without regrets, without what ifs, without should haves, and especially without empty feelings from a life unexplored. This hit show helps you build powerful and intentional roots to live it up, love it up, and let it go. Get fearlessly ready and powerfully rooted in your yes with your host, Erica Gifford Mills, and be fearless about your more and stand in your yes. Now on Get Rooted Radio.
Welcome, everyone. I am Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go, right here on Transformation Talk Revolution. Shout out to my producer today, Jessica. How you doing?
I'm awesome as always. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, I'm happy to have you because this is going to be a fun episode. This episode's titled "How to Become a Hero: Pathway to Purpose." And in today's episode, former professional athlete turned award-winning author Schwartzen Precil shares how personal pain can become a powerful pathway to purpose. Through storytelling, reflection, and emotional intelligence practices, he invites all of you listeners to reconnect with who you are beyond survival mode. This conversation explores what it means to be your own hero, letting go of what no longer serves the soul, which fits right in line with our show. But I'd like to tell you a bit about my guest. He is an award-winning author, leadership trainer, and founder of Hero Leadership Group. A 2025 Author of the Year finalist, he has impacted over 42,000 students and educators nationwide through resilience-centered leadership, storytelling, and social-emotional learning frameworks. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Schwartzen.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you for having me.
Well, I know I've had the pleasure of sharing a stage with you, and during this first segment, we're going to talk about the story behind the success. So let's really just start off with what experiences shaped who you are before the titles and the accolades.
Yeah, the first experience is usually through childhood, and so I would start there. I came up in New York City. I'm a first-generation American. Both my parents were born and raised in Haiti. My mom eventually immigrated through the game of soccer to Miami, and then she had birthed me in New York City. Because she comes from a third world country background, those who know a little bit of Caribbean Haitian history, it's the poorest country in all of the Western Hemisphere, historically. And so she lost me to foster care at the age of 1. My older Irish twin brother was 2 years old. And so we navigated throughout foster care. And that was pretty much the beginning of just playing life on hard mode the entire time. Foster care, I didn't get adopted till I was 15. By that time, I was a young man. I was already almost grown. Foster care taught me adversity. Life gives no, easy handouts. And I pretty much worked everything from basketball to academics, to getting a college degree, to writing books. That's why I have so many. A lot of folks don't get the perspective of what it means to be in foster care at such a young age. How do you navigate without parents? Who do you look to for role models? And so thus I created Be Your Own Hero as a way, a personal mantra, and a lifelong lesson to tell folks how to be their own hero.
Which is so important because I mean, even if you haven't been in the foster care system, I have several nieces and nephews. My sister was a foster parent for many years. I want to say 30 some years. And just to see the toll that it took on her, the kids that she had, it's something to be in there. That being said, even if you haven't, being your own hero is so important. I mean, you have to love yourself first. You have to fight for yourself, because if you're not going to, who else is? But you mentioned something about in the hard mode. So when did you realize that you were living in this survival mode rather than with an alignment with yourself?
Yeah, at the age of 8, I think age of 8 was when I had my first real life adversity. Practically speaking, I got hit by a car. So I'm a public school speaker, and I tell kids, I was, just like every other kid. I like to laugh, dance, paint, everything physical. I like to run around, just swim, play tag, just normal kid living in the Bronx. And then I got hit by a car, went to the hospital. Social services came. That's when I learned I was in foster care. So the woman who I was calling mom the entire time wasn't actually my mother. And so that put a sense of like, well, who's my mom then? And so asking those questions, asking why does like bad things happen to kids, it put me in a conundrum, in survival mode. Instinctively at 8 years old, became survival mode. I got switched to one foster home to another. And all it did, it evoked a lot of loneliness. It evoked a lot of emotional scarred, some trauma, things like that. And it was an area that I had to have therapy. I'm in therapy for the last 5 years because of it. It impacted relationships, how I dealt with siblings, how I dealt with platonic relationships, romantic relationships. It affects everything in that realm. And so that's when I learned I had real adversity. And how I overcame that was kind of through the game of basketball, which is why I played it for so long.
So what does it mean to be honest with yourself about that pain and that adversity?
To be honest is do some reflection. It allows you to be reflective. A lot of us as kids, we grow up identifying based on how others either affirm us or how we just explore the world, how we see the world. In the book, I talk about like, when you're not exploring your passions when you're a kid, it doesn't just affect the outside world, but it affects the world around you and your internal world. Man, I think children are one of God's greatest gifts. And so because of that, I'm like, why not explore? And just the aspect of like reflection is very important. So which is why I had to write things down, which is why I wrote so many books, because it helped me reflect on the things that was going on. A lot of men lack emotional intelligence, to be honest, and which is why I read books on emotional intelligence, because I'm like, where did I miss these parts of my life that could have helped me be emotionally available for my spouse, for my life, for my basketball career, and for my work.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to get into emotional intelligence and self-compassion during the next segment. So you mentioned writing as a form of therapy, and that's how I started. I never planned or really even wanted to be an author per se, but I wrote because it was very therapeutic for me. What did that bring out in you? Was it more of the emotional release? Was it getting it out to understand it? How did that help?
Yeah, what narrative, I call it narrative therapy, like you mentioned, narrative, because I have actual therapy, then there's narrative therapy.
Yeah.
It's writing the story that you tell yourself versus the story that others have told you. When you're born into the world, you're given a narrative based on where you grow up, based on maybe small town, based on culture, based on skin color, right? Based on how your body shape, you're told those things versus what you actually believe about yourself. Now, I always believed that I was like a kid who was vibrant, happy-go-lucky, but the narrative I was told, because I grew up in a impoverished area, I grew up inner city, I grew up maybe not academically gifted. Let me say that my brother was a whiz. I grew up the athlete, I would say. And the athletes are like dumb jocks. If you're not making it to the sports league, a professional league, you're not going to amount to anything. Foster parents kind of just belittled me, told me I was going to be in prison at a certain age. And so those narratives kept replaying in my head. So the people around me started reflecting what they told me versus what I actually believed about myself. So writing helped me believe what I actually believed on the inside versus what others would tell me, even if it wasn't true. I knew I had to write my own story.
Yeah, and that's really important because people assume certain things, and then once thoughts become things. It's real, right? It is as you are placed. I loved it because I have the people assume, oh, you have so many siblings. Were you Catholic? Oh, did you live on a farm? And I'm like, no. But it's, you get those stereotypes or the image, right? That your beliefs are formed, your values are formed from that very young age by the people who are around you, whether that's your family, friends, community. And so that can take a lot to change out of that. When you started realizing about your whole survival, changing from survival mode, right, going from surviving to thriving, and doing that alignment and having that narrative therapy, at what age did you think it started to change for you?
I think it was more than one. I like to say, multiple epiphanies in life. When I was in middle school, puberty, your body starts to change. You start to try to fit in. I started doing things that was beyond just the normal scope of a kid who's normal. So I, started getting fist fights, started stealing a lot, started lying, started joining gangs. And so between the ages of 8 and about 14, that was the narrative. It was just this kid who was a troublemaker. When I was 14, I was in family court, and I was almost sent 2 years juvenile detention. So it changed at that moment when I was given a second chance to do the right thing. And so that moment, that judge gave me, instead of giving 2 years, I got 1 year probation. And during that 1 year probation, I joined the basketball team. And then basketball, I just maintained my grades, focused, got me a scholarship. And by the time I was 17, I had left New York and never returned.
That's great. Well, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence and self-compassion. But before we go, Schwartzen, you have something for our listeners. What is that? Sure.
Yeah, I would love to be able to, if folks want to go on the website, to be able to order Be Your Own Hero, you get 25% off. So Erica, since I've known you, you can get 50% off, to be honest. This is one of my first books. I just came out with my 7th book. And so you have a code. The code would be HERO. It's at heroleadershipgroup.com. And you put in the promo code HERO, get you 50% off.
Right. So folks can connect with you via your website and any place else that you'd like to be able to connect with folks. Yeah,
on Instagram, Schwartzen.Precil. I'm on Facebook as well. And I'm on TikTok, Shway Motivated. YouTube is really big. And then on my website.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. You're listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We're leading in boardrooms and living rooms, in startups and schools, on stages and in silence. The Lead, Live, and Love Like a Woman trilogy is a bold, unapologetic book series for women who are done waiting for permission. Hi, I'm Erica Gifford Mills, and I didn't create this trilogy to teach women how to lead, live, or love. We are already doing that. We need your voices. Apply now to become a co-author and share your story in this powerful movement. Visit balancesymmetry.com.
Are you ready to break free from self-sabotaging patterns and reclaim your power? I'm Beck Nelson, licensed therapist, spiritual mentor, and psychic medium, helping individuals achieve true personal liberation through my Beckology framework. This step-by-step system shifts your mindset, strengthens your intuition, and empowers lasting change. Work with me through single sessions, 90-day or 6-month programs, or explore my courses, books, and coaching. Visit becknelson.com to get started.
I'm Tristan, a shaman, astrologer, and human design reader. I help unravel spiritual ideas to create change and growth in your life. Whether you are just beginning or need a knowledgeable best friend with the next phase of your journey, I'm here to help. Think of me as your pragmatic shaman bestie. I work with high-vibe, lovely people like yourself in personalized sessions that will leave you with a sense of clarity that energizes you to make impactful change. Connect with me, your pragmatic shaman bestie, at musingsandmodalities.com.
Vicki Todd is a memoir artist and sculptor whose female nude figures have been featured in juried group and solo shows in New Mexico and beyond. She is also a playwright and performed a one-woman show called Shine, Happy Shine, and recently wrote a second play, Does This Make Me Delusional?, which she hopes will hit the stage in the near future. You can view Vicki's artwork and one-woman show at vickyworldart.com. That's vickyworldart.com.
Do you want to become a host? Start your own podcast to inspire, persuade, and influence others on what you're passionate about? At the Transformation Network, we can help make your talk radio dreams happen. Let's take your hopes, dreams, and passions and put them on air today. Email us at host@transformationtalkradio.com to learn more about becoming a host of your very own show.
Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any portion of today's episode, you can catch it on getrootedradio.com. Don't forget to subscribe online to receive the latest news, events, specials, and words of encouragement. Go to getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Schwartzen Precil. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
No problem, Erica. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
So during our first segment, we discussed the story behind the success. During this segment, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence and self-compassion. Now, you had mentioned during the first segment that historically, I don't want to stereotypically, a lot of men don't have that emotional intelligence, or they might lack that. This was his words, men, not mine. It just doesn't come as naturally as maybe for a woman, that nurturing and that self-reflection. So why is that emotional intelligence essential for healing and for leadership?
I think healing takes time, and with time comes growth, right? Healing through things. I think the reason why a lot of men, we lack that, and also in tying into leadership, sometimes men don't know how to communicate their feelings, honestly. I think we subjugate ourselves to just three emotions: anger, violence, and maybe some passion. And it comes out in different ways, and that's because of what we see on TV, right? Historically speaking, because I've been in education, I learned a little bit more about it, read a few more books about it, which has now influenced the way I lead, myself, my family, the children that I guardian over. And it takes a lot of just, reading on reading the brain, on the different parts of how the amygdala, which is a part of the brain that's responsible for fight, flight, freeze, is responsible for worry, for fear. How many folks know that? How many men take the time to actually read those things? Being an educator, I had to go through training that helped me understand the difference between the amygdala part and then the prefrontal cortex, which is what most people rely on for planning, good judgment, right? The rational part, the planning part of the brain. And so most people lean on that while neglecting the other part that's more primitive to our survival.
And that's a good point, because as an educator, you do need to understand that, especially working with children, to see like at what point are they developing and how fast are they developing. So from the emotional intelligence, what would be the number one thing you believe that folks should focus on to have that healing, and really for the leadership, the self-leadership to allow the healing, but then also the forward outward leadership?
Yeah, and emotional intelligence is a more recent term that we've been using. Some people would just call it discernment, reading the room, just picking up energy. There's a book that's called Emotional Intelligence. Pardon me if I forgot the author, but they talk about this story. The story is it was based on a study. Everybody knows the Harvard study that was done. 2 marshmallows put in front of 2 kids. Okay, the one who they noticed the study is that the child who didn't take the marshmallow right away did later on better in life, based on the emotional capacity to resist, versus the child who took the sugar, the marshmallow right in front of them, who couldn't delay gratification. And so those folks who delay gratification do a little bit more successful in life, which is the emotional intelligence. If I don't do this now, I can get this later, reward later on. And I think that's one of the most important concepts, because we live in an instant society. We live in a microwave society. We need everything now. Everything got to be. I grew up in a time where everything wasn't convenient. When I went away to college, there was no Uber. There was no, there was no DoorDash. There was none of that. I graduated college. All of a sudden, we got all this instant stuff that you can have at the tip of your fingers. I mean, you never have to leave your house for anything now. And then pandemic just emphasized that. And so the very aspect of delaying gratification helps boost your leadership. It helps boost the emotional availability that you can have, both men and women can have, in order to lead effectively. And so that's what I've done in my business, in my program. That's how I help diagnose myself. That's how I help understand the world a little better.
Well, and it's interesting, because I was just having this conversation over the weekend about how we are, especially children of this generation are so prone to expecting everything right away. And it's because that's what they have, right? It wasn't, you have to go to the library to look into a book, to an encyclopedia, to do the research. You can type it into to Google, to Yahoo, to write it, whatever web browser you choose, and get the answer. Or if you don't know the answer for sure, type it into one of those AI tools and it will spit out a response for you. So they don't have to wait for anything now, and that's harder. So how does empathy, not only towards others, but towards yourself, create that deeper connection so that we can understand each other better?
I think with empathy and going on to the self-compassion, right? Because sometimes the words could be intertwined, interused. I think it's a byproduct of forgiveness. I think some of us live in a state of ignorance, to be honest, in today's day and age, being that things happen to us before a certain age. Maybe there's some trauma going on, and sometimes one of my go-to quotes is, "What's not transformed is transferred." Meaning, if a parent treated you a certain way, a guardian, a person, a peer treated you a certain way, if it's not transformed into some kind of positive energy, if you're not talked about it, you subconsciously just take on that role, that you reflect it. We have what we call mirrored neurons in our brain. And if you've never been shown empathy, compassion, forgiveness, you're probably not it's going to be harder to carry it. Let me say that. It's going to be much more harder to carry that towards somebody who's not in the same position. It's going to be hard to have a heart towards other people who may not be in your same position. And it allows you to see the world in a different way once you forgive yourself. And so that was a big thing of my journey. How did I have self-compassion for myself? By forgiving the things that were done to me, forgiving myself for wronging people. And that translated to having empathy towards other people, caring for other people, because I wasn't raised that way. And in that, I grew into, I'm still growing as a young man, but grew into the leader that I am today.
Now, you mentioned caring, loving. How can people learn to love themselves without guilt or shame? Because I think that's, the first step to a healthy relationship, any friendship, romantic or platonic relationship, is you need to learn how to love. And if you don't love yourself first, it's going to be hard to love anybody else. So how can people learn to love themselves without guilt or shame?
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's innate, but I think there's always an area of belief. There's an area of belief that something greater is something greater beyond this pain. That's the whole motto: pain to passion, pain to purpose, right? I just believe that when I was in foster care, when I was being malnourished, when my mom left me, when I didn't have anything, I believe that there was something better on the other side. And maybe it was the other side of death for me. I had an attempted suicide. I don't know if I could say that, but unalivement part of me. But it was an attempt in college because I didn't have that. And so for me, again, not to get all religious, but for me, it was the grace of God. I didn't believe in any kind of religion at the time. Just believed in what you can do or you're able to achieve. You believe you can achieve it. But I borrowed the belief of what other people believed in me, such as a coach. That was the most positive role model at an early age. He believed in me. I used that to get to college. And then now I'm empowering other kids to believe in themselves as well. So sometimes you got to borrow someone else's belief in you before you can believe in yourself, and then use that belief in yourself to develop in order to believe that you can achieve whatever you want. So belief.
Yeah. And I love that. You borrow somebody else's. And that's a good, because some people don't know how to love themselves. They have that negative self-talk, those limiting beliefs that just take over. We talked a little bit about that during the first segment, is those negative things and what you're taught and what you're put into, right? Not by yourself, but how you're brought into the world and what you are surrounded with. It's very hard then to have those positive thoughts and that love for yourself. And it is, if nothing else, borrow from somebody else, because that will help you see the bright, right? There's a song, part of a song that goes, every light turned off can be turned back on. And I think that's very much right. When the darkness sets in, know that there will be light again, so that you don't have those moments. So what other thing thing, tips, comments would you want listeners to know about emotional intelligence and self-compassion?
Yeah, there's an area that I go back to Genesis, a book in the Bible where it talks about the blame game, right? We have areas where we blame. Again, I use parental influence as the most common because most people grew up with a parent or guardian. Sometimes it's peer-to-peer influence that puts them in tough situations. Again, if you have no trouble with your childhood after 18, this is probably not for you. But I'm talking about for the kids who maybe have a lot of self-doubt, that go into their teenage years with really bad negative thoughts, with really bad self-identity. They lack identity. They're not rooted in a lot of positive things. What it comes down to is the very aspect of like taking an area of like radical responsibility is what I call it. That's what be your own hero. Like I was abandoned at the age of 1, right? By the time I was 13, I held my first firearm. And I didn't have parental guidance. And so for me, I had to believe that I got to take responsibility at some point. I can't keep blaming others. And if we keep blaming your mom, your dad, your grandma, what they did or did not do, you're going to live the rest of your life on this victimhood, this victim mentality. It's their fault. You're going to point the finger. That's the area of responsibility. I can, blame my mom for not taking care of business and why she left me. I can blame my dad for, not being with my mom at a certain time. I can blame my sibling for not encouraging me, right? You have those you can rationalize all you want, but there's an aspect where you get older and you work a job and you're still blaming other people. And, how does that now show your maturity? I'm a person who had to grow up really fast. And I want to show my maturity by showing, hey, even if that wasn't my fault, it's my responsibility. Even if that wasn't my fault, it's my responsibility. So I use that mantra a lot. Even if it's not my fault, it is my responsibility. Let me do the healing. Let me do the work. Let me be the best version of myself. Let me be my own hero.
I love that. So let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about from surviving to thriving. Before we go, Schwartzen, tell folks how they can connect with you.
Yes, yeah. Instagram, Schwartzen Precil. I'm big on YouTube as well, Schwartzen Precil. A website, heroleadershipgroup.com. On LinkedIn and Facebook as well.
Thank you so much. I'm Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Tired of feeling exhausted as a parent? I would love to help you with a new vision for yourself that is focused on intentional wellness parenting. My name is Aurelie Cormier, and I have over 40 years experience with complex cancer patients. I offer consultations, coaching, and educational programs for parents who want to boost their health and reduce risk of disease, especially cancer. For more information, go to aureliecormier.com.
You're thinking your purpose in life? Become a certified hypnotherapist and regressionist today. Bryn Blankenship is a renowned certified master hypnotherapist, international instructor, and author. In addition to her own show, Afterlife Teacher, Soul Lessons Bringing You Full Circle, Bryn is a popular radio show guest who speaks about her soul expression spiritual regression, her transformative method for finding and following your soul's guidance. For more information on her hypnoregression and afterlife regression certification programs, visit brynblankenship.com.
What if one decision could change everything? Cherise Evans, best-selling author of The Power of One, The 5 Essential Keys to Success, knows that transformation starts within. Let Cherise help you discover your authentic self and live with confidence, purpose, and joy. Whether you're ready to grow your career, your relationships, or your mindset, Cherise can show you how to elevate. Book with her today at shareevans.com.
Without Fear is a Chattanooga-based death doula practice helping individuals and families navigate end-of-life transitions with grace, courage, and compassion. Death doula Alexis provides emotional support, practical guidance, and space to explore life's deepest questions. Through grief support, workshops, and education, Without Fear is breaking the taboo around death and empowering people to embrace mortality as part of living fully. Visit withoutfeardoula.com to learn more and find a safe space for all things life, death, and the in-between.
Are you ready to get big and live your life out loud? Tune in to Get Big Out Loud Radio, exploring life through the lens of curiosity and compassion. With me, Carrie Knudsen, joining Dr. Pat live every second Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com. I will offer ideas to transform what you are thinking into conscious action. If you want to get big and live your life out loud, visit me at KnudsenSpeaks.com.
We're back on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Don't forget to visit GetRootedRadio.com to listen to a replay of this episode and sign up for helpful tips and learn more about speaking events. That's GetRootedRadio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Schwartzen Precil. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
All right, thank you for having me, Erica.
So during the last segments, we've discussed the story behind the success and emotional intelligence and self-compassion. During this segment, we're going to discuss from surviving to thriving. And so what does that mean to you, from surviving to thriving?
It's the silver lining at the end of the dark tunnel. It's the light at the end of the dark tunnel. And so I believe a lot of folks, again, in my experience in education, almost a decade, a lot of folks don't believe in themselves. They operate in a way that, again, is primitive. And I think it's, with our kids, it's kind of pandemic's fault as well. I mean, they lack the social skills, the social development, the brain development. Everything happened when the world shut down. And so there's a need for seeing the positive in your life post-pandemic, seeing yourself thrive on the other side. I think Stephen Covey puts it like this: start with the end in mind. What do you want to do at the end? What's the end goal? And so it's going from that position that you're in order to go to the goal that you want to achieve.
That's great. And I do love that. And I think that leads me really to my next question is, what are some of the common mindsets or identities people need to release to get to that point, to see the positive, to be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, some call it negative self-talk. Mm-hmm. I call it self-limiting beliefs. Watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, habits, character, destiny. It starts with the thoughts. And so I read a lot of books, Power of Positive Thinking. A Better Way to Think is really what I'm reading right now by Norman Wright. He's a Christian psychologist. And he talks about replacing those words, being able to, a thought is like clouds. Just watch it go by. It doesn't have to believe it. It's the ones that you believe that really take root. And then once you start taking root, you act on, or you respond in it, your words, and now your words go on. It happens so negatively that I believe that we can do that in the positive side. Because do it.
I mean, if it works negatively, why not work in it in the positive, right? Yeah. I mean, I always liken it to, it's easier for somebody, if they've had a bad experience, to complain about that, to leave a horrible review, but you don't think about leaving a positive review. Well, you got to do that, right? Or when you're looking in the mirror, and you're thinking these things, right? Even thinking them, right? Not even if you're saying them, thinking them, but would you say that to your child? Would you say that to your best friend? And if you wouldn't say it to them, why are you saying it to yourself?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. And so Norman Wright speaks on the conversations that we have. What does your self-talk look like? And so those are the common mindsets that people have. Angela Duckworth and Carol Dweck would call it the fixed mindset. Yep. You're fixed on this one thing. It can't change. I can't ever change. Versus this new theory, right? This growth mindset, this positive outlook on life. Post trauma, you can have a growth. You can have a growth outside of what you may be subjected to or limited in your belief and thinking.
So how do we let go of those old stories without losing ourselves?
Great question. I am 31 and I've been in therapy for 5 years figuring that out. I'll be honest, but it did start with writing things down. I think journaling is such an underrated practical step. Journaling, and again, right? I think for me, I read and write, right? It's not a very masculine thing. They say to journal and read and all this stuff, right? But that's just education. I think you have to do that. So that's one of the biggest things, rewriting the narrative, writing things down, journaling. The second thing is speaking affirmations over yourself. I remember I used to work a job, and I had literally note cards fresh out of college. I had sticky notes of my affirmations in the day. I worked the job. I went there one day. One coworker said, "Well, why do you speak affirmations over yourself?" And then she read my journal. She's like, "Oh, because no one's gonna say it for you." And I'm like, well, no, yeah, I mean, no one's telling me how brilliant I am, how achievement I am, how confident I am. No one's telling me that. And so I have to believe that I can survive in the real world. This is my first real world job. I have never worked a 9 to 5. So it was my first time doing it. And I had zero clue how to even keep a job in that way. I had a McDonald's job when I was in high school, but not like corporate, And so telling yourself, that's the second thing, journaling, positive self-affirmations, and just, meditating, taking that 10-minute timer, and saying those positive things. I put on violin, I put on worship music. So those are the kind of 3 most important self-care opportunities that I use to rewire my mind and rethink positive thoughts.
And I think you have to try different things, right? Because what works for one person may not work for another, but you'll find that if you try, right? You just have to try to see what is going to work for you. But I love those because it is, so when you can get something out on the paper, and it's one way to release it, right? And I think also just letting it go from there, right? If you've had a bad day, fine, write about it, get it down, and then leave it. Don't unpack and stay there. It's not that you just because you say positive things and you have a positive outlook on life doesn't mean you're not going to have a bad day. Of course, you're going to have a bad day. We're just saying don't unpack and stay there. Feel the feelings and then move on. And I think, you talked about it a little bit last segment on forgiveness and forgiving yourself, forgiving others. Let's expand on that a little bit more and talk about what role does forgiveness, especially the self-forgiveness, play in that growth to get from the fixed mindset to the growth mindset.
Can I be frank with it? I don't know if I can talk about religion because my
absolutely,
faith,
absolutely,
a huge part on that. And I can only tell from a personal perspective when it comes to forgiveness. I was raised by an atheist foster father who diminished me and my foster siblings day in and day out. He used to say, I am a dictator. I mean, he was so evil. His wife called him the warden. And so in my book, I call him the warden. That's what I heard growing up. We had to call them by their Mr. and Mrs. such and such for years. We never called them pop or mom and things like that. And so with that mentality, it made me resent myself in a lot of ways because he's just the evil look. I'm like, how could you look at kids so evil? Like, how did I attract that? And so in my book, and this is a practical thing, I had to write a letter of forgiveness for forgiving him and the torture that he kind of put me and my siblings through. And how did I get there? That's the real question. How do you even tend to forget? Why can't you just let it go? Every relationship that I've been through from that point was just ended in disaster. I mean, I became a fiction novelist because it was just really bad. And I'm just like, why do I keep repeating the cycle? How do I keep repeating the cycle? And for me, my faith in Christ Jesus, for me, it was like, if there's a God out there that forgives me for all the wrong I've done, how can I now hold on to the grudge and the disappointment and the hurt that someone else did to me? Right? For me, faith, Christ talks about loving God and loving your neighbor. He was my neighbor. He was atheist, right? How could I love him? And it was, stemmed from my love for God. And that's how I healed. That's how I'm still healing. That's how I'm able to function as a dysfunctioning man in society, right? High functioning, dysfunctional man in society, despite having an ACEs score, adverse childhood experience of 10. All right. And that helped me really, truly let go of the grudge, let go of the bad mistakes, the 20-year-old Schwartz, and move on with my life and forgive others. So that's a personal story.
People, speaking is nothing more than storytelling, right? We've had that discussion before. And it's important to understand someone's story, right? The backstory. I would say the backstory, the pre-story, the middle story, and the end story, right? Because if you try to compare yourself to somebody's ending and you're in the beginning, you're never, right? And also comparison is the thief of joy. So we never want to do that. But you can use somebody's journey as a potential roadmap for yourself and understanding that. And so I appreciate that you do that role of forgiveness does play in growth, because when you can let it go, whether it's somebody else or for yourself, you will grow. Or it's that holding on to that. And I don't know who said it or who it's attributed to, but it's like giving somebody, trying to poison somebody else, but you're the one who's drinking the poison, right? It hurts you, not them. And that is what holding on to that ugliness, that not forgiving somebody does. It doesn't mean you have to forget it, right? You can forgive and you don't have to have that person back in your life, but you can forgive and move on and move forward. Yeah. I love that. So anything that you want to leave our audience members with on to go from surviving to thriving? Any last minute tips?
Well, I think forgiveness is an everyday thing. It's not like it's a one and done thing. That's one. It is a process. And that's why I use the motto, from pain to purpose, you have to go through a process. And that process has to do with, start with your passion, start with what you love, what makes you come alive. Think about those things, meditate on, no matter what age. Think about what makes you feel like a kid on the inside. Find the right people who's going to help support that. Even if it's your dog, right? You can just talk to them about it, build that capacity up. Find the right place, okay? The place, the environment that's going to help elevate that, cultivate that. For me, it's the gym. And then you'll eventually find that purpose, which is what I call the why. Find the reason why you want to do this thing, love it, and that's the process and how you get from pain to purpose. That's what I use.
I love that. No, I love that. That's great. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to finish out the show with how to be a hero. This is Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
If you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, or in grief, I'm here to help. I'm Faye Lau, intuitive healer and founder of Faye Inspired Healing. Through soul-guided sessions, I help you reconnect with your body's wisdom and inner truth. Whether you're healing from loss, letting go of pain, or rising into elevated energies, my work combines energy clearing, grief support, and spiritual coaching. Schedule a session or learn more at fayeinspiredhealing.com.
There is more to life than simply surviving or even thriving. There's flourishing. High performance and quantum success coach Beth Larson helps you calibrate and elevate your life. Beth specializes in working with women who want more from their life, more energy, joy, passion, connection, and more meaning. As your coach, she will help you get clear about your life, prioritize what's important, and become a master of your energy. Visit BethLarsonCoaching.com.
What if justice wasn't just about systems, but about the soul? Join us on the Spiritual Justice Show with me, Eric S. Lee, on the Transformation Network each first and third Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. We bring together leaders, healers, and change makers to explore a new vision of justice, restorative, transformative, and deeply spiritual. Find out how spiritual justice could be your missing piece to transformation.
You ever feel it? That whisper just beneath the surface? A deeper part of you ready to rise? At Aligned Energy, we don't just inspire change, we embody transformation. This is where high-performing women come home to themselves, where the masks fall away and the real you steps forward, powerful, radiant, and fully alive. This is Manon, energy alchemist, transformation coach, and best-selling author, guiding women leaders from burnout to purpose. Together, we will reconnect with your innate wisdom to clear energetic blocks and activate your eros and life force, awakening the sensual, sovereign self within. For the wild-hearted, for the ones ready to get clear, stop performing and start becoming. This is your invitation to rise and step into your power, purpose, and possibility. Visit AlignedEnergyHealing.com to book your exploratory call or session today.
Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any of the information during the last segments, go to getrootedradio.com to listen to a replay. Don't forget to subscribe, sign up for tips and special events and pricing for upcoming coaching sessions and speaking sessions at getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Schwartzen Precil. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Erica. Thanks for having me.
So tell folks how they can connect with you, learn more about your books, and how to connect with you to have you come out as a speaker.
Sure. Yeah. My website is probably the best form, heroleadershipgroup.com, or you can just Google search my name, Schwartzen Precil. Either works. I'm on social media, on YouTube, Instagram. The kids follow me on TikTok, and LinkedIn is a great way to connect with me as well.
Wonderful. So during the last segments, we've discussed the story behind the success, emotional intelligence and self-compassion, and from surviving to thriving. And during this last segment, we're going to discuss how to be a hero. So I want listeners to know, how can they begin being the hero of their own journey?
HERO is an acronym that we created for curriculums. And it starts with being honest. H is honesty, but not just honest. It's really being brutally honest with where you are. Start there, having those tough conversations with yourself. Start there before you start with others. Speak to your higher power.
Self-reflection, yes.
Reflection. That's how you start to. That's a starting point. E is really energy. See how you feel about it. What emotions come up, right? E, emotions, empathy, energy. And see how that makes you feel. How does your body respond to the honesty in that, right? Because heroes don't save other folks. I think heroes, the first thing they do is kind of they the way I looked at it, be your own heroes by saving yourself. No one's gonna come to save you. And so how do you be your own hero, right? We're not talking like Marvel comics. We're talking about there's a challenge in my life. How do I show up for myself? And that R is being resilient. R is resiliency, not just bouncing back, but bouncing forward from a setback. Everyone has obstacles and challenges along the way, but you have the willpower and ability. You just got to believe in it to bounce back from that setback. And O, which is a challenging one for most, is ownership. Taking ownership of your life, despite what circumstances you've been dealt, what cards you've been dealt. And so HERO, how do you become the whole hero? It's in that order, and owning it. I'm a foster child, right? My mom abandoned me at one point. I had body image challenges when I was younger, right? Challenges come up, but it's my story, and so I take my power back, and you all should take your power back by owning your own story.
I love that. So listeners, again, be the hero, HERO, of your own journey, the honesty with yourself, that self-reflection, the energy and empathy, how you're feeling, the resilient or being resilient or the resiliency, and then the ownership, right? So honesty, energy, resilience, and ownership. And I think that's great because I'm a huge Wonder Woman fan. So sometimes I do think Marvel or DC, but it's only because I look at it as Wonder Woman is a state of mind. And like you said, I don't need rescuing. I need to rescue myself. And I'm not a victim. So I hate to say rescue even, because I don't like to believe that victim mentality, but it's all about that mindset, which we, talked about during that last segment, is how is that going from the fixed mindset to the growth mindset? Well, I think the hero is the way to do that. So in order for someone to be a hero, just what small, courageous step can one take this week to start their path?
I'm going to give them the advice that I took for myself, which is writing. I think it's an underrated tool, writing, just getting it out there, get out your own. That's how you get out your own way. There's this narrative that you've been told versus what you actually believe. And so writing it out, journaling, and you don't have to publish it. I mean, I published my trauma, but it helped me. I won several awards from it. And so you never know, Hollywood might call and things like that. But honestly, and so that first thing is writing it out. That's the most practical way. I'm not going to even say like have the tough conversations with such and such person, because for me, the person died, so how can I have a conversation with somebody beyond the grave, right? And so it was a writing aspect of forgiveness, and seeing where that goes. Again, take it one step at a time, breathe, right? Breathe, because PTSD is real, right? Fight, flight, fright, freeze, fawn is real, right? Those things there's a physiological response that your body puts into when you start thinking about old traumas, old wounds, but digging that up, that's but knowing that there's hope on the other side. So don't dig it up and just to leave it there, just so you could trauma dump, but dig it up for the purpose of healing and being the best version of yourself, becoming the best version of yourself. To me, that means being your own hero.
I love that. So final reflection as we end today's episode. What do you want listeners to remember after this episode is done? If you had one thing or three things, whatever it is, what do you want them to remember?
Yeah, the whole aspect of hero is just being courageous enough to take a step. Being courageous enough to take a step. It takes courage to speak. It takes courage to write. It takes courage to go on a journey to lose weight. It takes courage to pick up the phone call and talk to a family member that really hurt you. It takes courage to show up to a boss who doesn't respect you. It takes courage. And so the very aspect of myself, again, now when I was 14 years old, you would have thought I would have, been in prison by a certain time. I ran away from home. And it took courage. And I had one kid, when I went on stage and talked about it, he says, yeah, he starts clapping. I'm like, I'm a runaway, and I appreciated that response because I told him the backstory of things. And sometimes it doesn't look like the traditional way of courage. Courage can look like a non-traditional way of doing something for you. And so even if you have kids, if you have a spouse and things like, you still need to show up for you. And it takes courage to show up for yourself. And so I would say show up for yourself. Know that that's a step of courage, a step in the right direction. No longer, victim mentality. Step into that courageous season and, God will do the rest.
Thank you so much, Schwartzen, for being on the show today.
Thank you, Erica, for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. And I want to thank you all for tuning in to Get Rooted Radio. If you missed any part of today's episode or want to listen again, go to getrootedradio.com for the podcast. And don't forget to tune in the first and third Monday of each month at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Pacific right here on Transformation Talk Revolution. And one invitation for you folks. Have you been yearning to get on the stage? Well, this invitation is for you, and it all begins with a single decision to lead like a woman. Your journey will begin inside the Women of Influence Accelerator, which is a high-level 6-week virtual speaker training designed to prepare women to rise, refine their message, and own the stage with clarity and confidence. This is where voices strengthen, stories sharpen, and leaders step into the truth of their influence. From there, you will ascend to the global spotlight at the International Women's Speaker Summit on May 16th in Phoenix, Arizona. The stage where women from around the world gather to rise, speak, and claim their power publicly. And as these women grow in visibility and impact, we end the evening with a red carpet recognition dinner, a celebration honoring those who have risen, led, and used their voices to create meaningful change. So the accelerator will prepare you, the summit will elevate you, and the red carpet dinner recognizes and honors you. Message me if you want to find out how you can join this movement. And as we close out today's episode, I want to remind you that you are worthy. If you are hurting or need help, please know the world needs you and it is a better place with you in it. Don't let the hard days win. Reach out for assistance. You can call or text or chat the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, or text HOME, HOME, to 741-741 to reach a trained crisis counselor through the crisis text line. Both are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and are free. Thank you for tuning in. I'm looking forward to the next time on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Visit getrootedradio.com if you've missed any part of this hit show, and tune in on transformationtalkradio.com to live fearlessly in your more and powerfully rooted in your unlimited yes. For more information and to work with Erica directly, visit GetRootedRadio.com. That's GetRootedRadio.com, and get ready to live it up, love it up, and let it go.